hoopinhoops.com. Please subscribe to continue getting the content. Okay, let's dive straight into it. We are about to start the conference finals. I think the Eastern Conference is more predictable than the West. I see Boston going to the NBA Finals. Miami is a good team, don't get me wrong, but they do not have enough to get past Boston. The Lakers and the Nuggets is more difficult to predict. I would think the Nuggets are the favorites. Some people who previously underestimated Denver are now coming around. They see the play, they see how Jokic is playing actually, and how the team overall is performing with Jamal Murray being back, Michael Porter Jr. playing more like himself. Persons are seeing that Denver is a real force to contend with. But the Lakers also have a complete team and they could match up well with the Nuggets. The thing is, the Lakers need some big bodies to throw at Jokic. And they have Tristan Thompson. Mo Bamba is still recovering from injury, although he may be back in that series. But, the Lakers will have to be careful with AD because the Joker, gets lots of persons in foul trouble, especially with, that million pump fakes he does. That's it. Uh, Let me touch on the Boston Philadelphia series for a little bit. Before the game, I said the Celtics would have won game 7. And I will continue to see that was not a very hard prediction. What was interesting was to hear Joe Mazzulla change his tone. He changed it just a little bit. When the series started, he mentioned that the Celtics are a 3-point shooting team. After game 7, he pointed out that Boston, although they want to be good offensively, they cannot have too much of a drop off defensively. He also mentioned that, the defense, when it's good, it opens up opportunities for them to make threes. And I'm going to tell you, that's a huge change for Missoula because previously you would hardly hear the word defense come out of his mouth. Okay, but I will tell you, that change in tone is the right one because, from my perspective, Boston is a defense first team. The the Philadelphia 76ers. Oh, those Sixers. Persons have been asking who is to take the most blame for the loss. There are a variety of responses from the coach to the players. Most persons seems to be putting the blame on the players. Well, it's kind of close either way, but I think it's most persons see the players. But Philly have a trifecta in terms of the connection when it comes to the connection for blame. Let's look at Joel Embiid, James Harden, and Doc Rivers. Although I'm looking at these three, I believe the entire team has a part to play in the loss. But those are the main culprits. Let's start with James Harden. Credit to him. He had 2 40-point games that put them in a position so that they could eventually have a game 7. Without those performances, even when Joel Embiid missed the first couple games, we saw James Harden perform and carry the team, to victory. The thing is, in pressure moments, he seemed unable to perform. We all know what happened in the fourth quarter of game 6. Okay? In game 7, James Harden was 3 for 11, 5 turnovers, 7 assists. Make no mistake, James Harden can play. It is just in those moments when we expect him to be at his best, that's when he comes up small. I'm not sure how many of you remember um, back when he was on the Rockets. The team Houston missed 27 straight threes to give up a 15-point lead and lose Game 7 to the Warriors. And of course, we all know who took the majority of those shots. And I could give you a host of other situations regarding James Harden coming up small. That just seems to be his thing in pressure moments. Joel Embiid also have some similarities in that he tends to disappear in important moments in the game. Now, under no circumstances should anyone question Joel Embiid's talent. Okay, his talent here is not in question here, but it's his ability to take responsibility. Okay, Joel Embiid was 5 for 18 in that game 7 with only 15 points. He and Harden combined for a total of 24 points. After the game, Embiid says that he and Harden cannot do everything. Well, at least he didn't throw Harden under the bus this time. I guess he learned from, you know, the last situation he had with his last co-star. Okay, so what is he trying to say from that statement? He seems to be alluding to that it might be Maxi or Tobias that were not playing up to par. But if you look in the game, Tobias Harris was 7 for 13 with 19 points. Maxi was 5 for 12 with 17 points. I mean, both of them outplayed both him and Harden. So I'm not sure, what he's trying to say by, you know, the other players needs to help. The two of them cannot do it by themselves. The thing is, you don't hear those comments from Embiid until after a critical game. Mid series, if they lose, no problem. He'll say, well, it's a team. I could be better. We could be better. But in the final game or games that they must win, James Harden never says it's on the team or I could do better. It's always somebody else needs to. And like I said, Joel Embiid is very talented, but he needs to share in the blame when blame needs to be dished out. And I should add, in those important moments, he needs to stop coming up, as small as he does. So let me say this: there is no surprise here. I'm putting the majority of the blame on Doc Rivers. And I will tell you, his record speaks for itself. I heard a former player say that it cannot be Doc. You know, Embiid and Harden quit on him. The team quit on him. In game sevens, it's for the stars to carry you to victory. That's what the former player said. Let me put a stop to that nonsense quickly. Because, you know, persons may or may not, I don't know, some persons are, if you've been paying attention, to Doc and his history, then you're aware of it. But if you're not, and I'm sure a lot of persons are not familiar with Doc's history, you know, when players make those kind of statements, especially for the former coaches, I will tell you, it's off. Let me give you a few points here. Doc Rivers lost 10 times in a game 7. This is twice as many as any other coach in the history of the game. Look it up. He also lost 9 consecutive games in which his team had an opportunity to reach the conference finals. Now look at the teams Doc had, okay? And look at those runs. We know since Orlando, he has been on the Celtics. We know Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen, and all of these guys. Then he moved to the Clippers. Started off with Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, Chris Paul, and all of those guys. Then he had the Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and all of these players. And of course, now he's with the Sixers. He has had Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, and a host of other players. And now of course, we know what happened with Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, and that team. And then now he has, James Harden, he has Maxey, he has Embiid. It's not like he has not had a plethora of players, of good players. So you could not just look at the team, look at the players he had on the team. Look at the composition of the team. This is a pattern with Doc. To simply say the players quit on him, it's unfair without looking at Doc Rivers' history. Did the players quit every time on him? Or maybe it was a conspiracy to make him look bad. Not that he lost game 7. It puts him, well, I should say now that he's lost game 7, because it's not just that he lost game 7, but in addition to losing game 7, it puts him at now at what, 17 and 35, something like that, in terms of when he's supposed to close out a team. He just can't seem to get it done. We also know his record of teams coming back when they're down 3-1. So, this is the most of any coach. This is the thing. It's a 7-game series, and teams sometimes have the opportunity to figure out Doc's strategy. Once they do, that's it. Doc's incapable of making any adjustments. And you've heard his players say that on many occasions. So yes, I understand the past performances of James Harden and Joel Embiid. But you have to take a moment to put it in context with what has happened with Doc throughout his coaching career. And this is the thing. It's not just about game 7 that they lost. If you look at game 6, in the last few minutes of the game, Joel Embiid never touched the ball for the last four minutes of the game, and probably took one shot in the last 7 minutes. If Doc had just take a moment to call a timeout, to just coach the game, there would not likely even be a game 7. And and yes, Tatum hit some timely frees, but like I said, the Sixers were not scoring, and Doc was not coaching the game. Had he coached the game, whether it be 2 baskets or 3 baskets, when you look at how close the game ended, it would very likely might have been sufficient to change the outcome of the game. But of course, we never know. But what we're saying is there is a possibility. So persons needs to stop giving Doc a pass. Make him earn his worth. Since that championship with the Celtics all those years ago, it has been a train wreck, one after another. All I'm saying, prove us wrong, Doc. Hoopinhoops.com.